Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up With Conspicuous. I know it was only a couple of days ago you saw us, but we are back with a new and very exciting guest, which is a new topic we haven't covered as of yet. So I think it will be quite interesting to a lot of people listening today. But we are joined by the lovely Justine, who is an absolute marketing guru, and works at Supercell 365 as is it a co-founder? Is that correct word?
Co-founder, yes, yeah.
Co-founder and One Engine, which is the marketing side to the business as well. So thank you for coming on the podcast, Justine.
Thank you, Lucy, for having me. Yeah, very exciting. So no pressure. Marketing guru is, yeah. I hope I live up to it.
You will. And we've got to address it early on. But I remember when me and Helena first had our call with Justine, we couldn't appreciate the cows in the background more. It was such a good background that. So yeah, always good. Now, for anyone that doesn't know you or know a bit about your background, I think obviously it's a very good place to start, just to tell the audience who you are, where you've come from, and what it is you do.
Yeah, of course. So I've sort of been in this space for probably far too long, really, for 28 years, in fact. When I was actually sort of looking back on my journey, it was like, wow, I even surprised myself for 28 years. So, but very much I started my career of marketing in tech, all those years ago, for a privately owned reseller business. But that reseller business was of ERP, of Sage. They were a leading Sage partner, but they were also a large-scale infrastructure partner as well. So I was looking after very much the marketing side of things from both an application point of view and an infrastructure, working very closely with IBM. So that's where it all started, really. And the focus really was, we didn't have all these great modern ways of marketing. It was, we've got a customer base, we want to get more customers, how do we do it? And then followed very quickly, but we haven't got any money to do it. So it was a little bit of it was a very steep learning curve. So obviously I'm sort of marketing certified, and I've done all the wonderful marketing accreditations and what have you, but actually this was real, and I had to sort of start coming up with some plans and some ideas and being a little bit creative with working with a customer base that was actually a really good customer base, but growing that customer base, but also actually looking at the upsell and the cross-sell opportunity within that base as well. So I sort of went to task, really, and thought, okay, how am I going to do this with zero budget? Because going back then, there wasn't really such a thing as a marketing budget. We didn't have all of the sort of great the systems and the platforms to work on as we have today. So it was, well, okay, good direct mail, can never not direct mail. But actually, in terms of data segmentation, none of that really sort of came into it. But so moving on from that was the start. And obviously my career evolved with that business, and I was instrumental into helping grow that business from 9 million to 20 million in just over 7 years.
Wow.
And it was really gearing that business up for sale. As I say, it was a privately owned business. It went through a management buyout. A couple of years after management buyout, it was then geared to actually then be sold further into a PLC organisation. So actually, in terms of when I look back and I think, actually, how did I do that? It was just thinking really, really carefully about actually who the customer base was, where's the sweet spot of the business, what was going to get me the traction for potential new businesses, and how was I going to do that considering sort of they're an ERP business, they want to grow. What other areas can we expand the business on? So new practices coming within the business. So we slowly sort of took steps to grow that business into different directions. So very much part of that was partnering and working with our existing partners to actually say, well, okay, where's the opportunity? What does the opportunity look like? How are we going to address this opportunity? How are we going to continue growing the business? Sort of from the original days, transitioning into sort of that PLC organisation was quite a change. So working for private and working for PLC, did the direction change? No, it was all about adding customers, keeping customers. Customer retention was so important, continuing to grow out that business, continuing to grow the expertise of that organisation that was going to get traction going forwards. So actually bringing and building in new practices within existing businesses has been very much what I've been involved in. A lot of those have actually sort of been compete situations as well. But I was keeping the strategy fairly straightforward. There was nothing clever about the strategy. It was just really understanding who the customers were and actually how could I use evidence-based marketing to be able to go out and influence potential new customers for the business. And how could I then start to actually build in what that business was actually trying to even sell and why were they trying to sell it and why would anyone even want to consider the partner to be their partner going forward. So it was just thinking very much along the lines, we'll put myself in the shoes of a customer, put myself in the shoes of somebody who's maybe been using a compete solution for an awful long time, actually trying to convince them and influence them. You have to be quite careful in how you do that. And the approach is, you have to be quite delicate with the approach at times, and actually give them reason to want to talk to you. So in terms of the strategy, the brand is extremely important within the strategy. Your value proposition doesn't stay as a single value proposition. Depending upon who you are, what you're selling, is it IP, is it solution-based, is it service-based? Your value proposition will be tweaked slightly to accommodate. And it's taking all of that and being able to put that into a variety of marketing activities and being able to relay the message and actually using the channels to market to reach your audience. So we know not everybody is fully on board with social media. Not everyone. Yeah. How annoying are emails? We get enough business emails a day. How annoying is it when you're constantly receiving spam emails? And that's how you look at it. And with today's systems, we can eliminate having to read some of those spam emails because of obviously all the firewalls and etc. that we have in place. But I look very closely at how am I going to get my message out to my audience in the best form where it's going to be easy for them to understand, relate to, it's compelling, and actually it's easy for them to get in touch with me. And that's how I think about it. I think very, very sort of simplistically, really. Yes, there's some great modern ways to bring in, but actually the fundamentals, they're the fundamentals of marketing. They remain the same, no matter what systems and what great sort of AI you might have around you. the fundamentals sort of pretty much remain the same. So yeah, so that's really my thinking when I look at my history. Is I started with very, very traditional type marketing, no budget. How can I actually do this? And it was just thinking strategically and working with partners to help me. Those partners had money. They had money to support. I then looked at building alliances between partners. So actually I built alliances between Sage and IBM. I built alliances with, when we moved into that sort of BI space as well, I built the alliance, really strong alliances between Business Objects, Sage and IBM. Business Objects, formerly known as, but were acquired by SAP. So I had three-way partnerships going, and pretty much those partners were funding all of our marketing. And that marketing was driving ERP business, CRM business, BI business, large-scale infrastructure business. So actually, when I think about what I set out to do originally was, how do I sell more into the customer base, and how do I sell more and grow more customers? It was bringing it all together. And it was really relying upon the partners and actually building that trust and transparency with partners that enabled me to do that. And I've never forgotten it. And I continue to use that in everything that I do. Relationships contribute an awful lot to your marketing success.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. So hopefully that sort of gives you a little idea in terms of where you might be wanting to look, where maybe you aren't so strong in. And there's amazing partners out there, and they're doing amazing marketing, and you can't fault them. But never be afraid to talk to them either. And although we might see that competitors are competitors, actually the whole partner to partner piece is really quite powerful. And never be afraid to share what's working for you, because actually the more you can collaborate together and come up with new ideas in terms of how to go forwards and actually how to grow whatever channel you might well be in. You could be in a dynamics channel, you could be in a modern work channel, you could be in an HR and payroll channel. It actually there's no difference. It doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're pushing, whatever it might be. It's the approach in which is really, really important. And actually you've got the approach, but it then comes down to data. And the data aspect, as we know, you can have as much data as you want. You can have the biggest database in the world, but actually, if it's not relevant, what's the point? So actually thinking about who your target audience is and really taking the time to segment your data into manageable sizes that you can work with and modify and cleanse and just build intelligence against that data will really, really help you reach your end customer. Because the more intelligence you can build against any potential prospect, the more tailored your marketing message becomes.
Very true.
So there is time that has to be taken to really manage your data. Data is everything. As we know, we hear it all the time, but if you can get your data and you can build the intelligence, that's where you're going to win. And to build the intelligence, you build it in multiple ways. You can use channels, you can use digital channels, you can use your social platforms, you can use good old-fashioned SDR stroke telemarketing approach, where you're picking up the phone and you're talking to people, and that actually brings through quite a lot of intelligence behind any one contact, an account.
Yeah.
So really building on the intelligence of the data that you have, and starting to actually understand who they are and actually why they will want to buy from you. So that's the sort of approach in terms of targeting. Data is everything, and invest your time and invest some budget into making sure you've got the right data sets, and continuing to expand those data sets out as your business grows. So that's,
I think that's quite important.
yeah.
I was just going to say, off the back of the data set, I think it's quite easy for modern marketing, like people who are coming into the marketing career now, to get very sidetracked and excited by new shiny things.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many different applications or different ways you can do things. A lot of things is social media nowadays, that they forget the pieces behind it that will actually drive the marketing is the data. So you can do a TikTok video or you can do a post on LinkedIn, but if you're trying to use marketing to bring in clients and build relationships, I think just from an outsider's perspective, of someone who, I do obviously a bit of self-marketing, but like from an outsider's perspective, I think a lot of people nowadays miss the data set behind it. I think
you're absolutely right. And I still see it now with when I'm asked for help. I have, as I say, I work across the tech channel, and that's where my expertise is working with organizations that sit in small, medium, large scale channels, and they have different audiences. And when you sort of do that first sort of few sessions with them, and you ask them what the barriers maybe are that they feel, data never comes up. But when you start to drill into it, actually we've got a data set and that's who we're using. Well, we've got a customer base, but they've never profiled it. So you have to almost take them back to basics. And it's sometimes you might get the odd funny stare about going back to basics, but actually, as I said before, you can do so much, but actually you can do that so much and it's a complete waste of time if your data's wrong.
And sometimes being more simple, as you said, having those simple strategies are way more effective.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of ways that you can improve your data, and there's lots of channels into your data as well that can help improve it. But there's also lots of channels that can muddy your data. So just for anyone out there, in terms of if you're looking at a new target audience, say maybe you're bringing in an industry, maybe you've developed some IP and you want to start targeting an industry. Okay, think about this really carefully about, okay, what are the demographics of that? But actually, why do they want to buy? So based on the intelligence of that data, you'll start to be able to refine it and refine who you're targeting. So
I think that sort of ties into how you can stand out in such a competitive market as well. I think obviously you've just covered so many fantastic points about the way you can market, but I think, as we know, the IT and tech space is heavily saturated. It is a very competitive market. And as you said, sometimes focusing on those certain industries, would you say that's one of the important ways that you could sort of stand out in the market?
Yeah, it is. It's again, certainly from a Microsoft perspective, or any application type, is really identifying where you're good and why you're good. Is the first thing, but actually one of the ways to really sort of stand out and to be very, very to start building your brand and your presence is identifying an industry sector. Now that could also be supported a lot by, if you're developing your own IP for a specific sector, you can use evidence-based marketing. So actually, I mentioned profiling your customer base earlier. If you took the time and profiled your customer base, I think you'll be surprised sometimes actually what sectors you've sold into. And then when you start to drill down and you think, well, why have we sold into those sectors? And I've done this many a time. And actually, there's been a few surprises. And actually, when you start to think, well, actually, okay, I've got customer evidence here, customer's really happy, we can do more of this. And actually, there's something really quite compelling here that actually, knowing your competition, you know that there's a bit of a white space in the market for you to actually start to build your presence in and start targeting and working with potential prospects. So yeah, definitely industry is one way to stand out. Again, bringing it back to simple is geographically, focusing on an area is also very powerful, especially when it comes to sort of SEO and stuff. If you have on your website that you are I'm based in Liverpool or we're based in Liverpool and we service these towns, that gets picked up really, really quite easily in SEO, because something that we're all fighting for, I think, no matter what industry you're in, you're all fighting for that SEO piece, and you all want to be on at the front of any of the search engines. You're all trying to use trying to differentiate how you're using namings on your website, so page naming, so you're being brought up on search engines. But actually think about, again, okay, I'm in Liverpool, we can do this, whatever it might be, but industry is one, really, really good. And actually, if you've got evidence to show that, that's really strong and powerful. Geography is another one to sort of start thinking about. But really understanding who your customer base and profiling them will enable you to then start to think about how can we differentiate ourselves to the competition. Because it is a really, really, it's a tough space, because not only are you competing against maybe Dynamics partners, you're also competing against other vendors. So Sage, NetSuite, SAP, and it can be quite daunting as well, because you think, how are we ever going to compete? We haven't got IP. Okay, if you haven't got IP, what ISV solutions can you be working with? What ISV can you be partnering up with? And really actually pulling together something quite powerful that's going to set you apart. So don't worry too much if you don't own your own IP. Start working with some of the IP, some of the ISV partners that are there. There's lots of them. Some of them are really, really quite unique. They will support you. They're as keen to be growing their business as you are to be growing yours. So come together and put your strengths together and your expertise, and that will help you form more of a competitive advantage over maybe someone who isn't doing that.
So I think that's a really lovely point, actually. And it's funny because every podcast I have, someone will bring it back to the community in the tech space, and it's crazy how powerful it is. And I think if people have been watching this podcast from the start and they don't believe community is one of the biggest things within the tech space, then they haven't been listening correctly. But what I would say is, I think a lot more people now are understanding that actually, partnering up or connecting or building those relationships is the key here. Like, that is one of your biggest powers you're going to have to succeed.
Yeah. And I live with some of the relationships that I built, sort of going back to my early days. I still hold those relationships. I still talk to people in Microsoft that I've known for all that time. I still talk to people within Sage, and actually I still have contacts within IBM. I don't work with IBM, but actually they take you with them. And
Yeah.
that's again, for you, for growing an organization, customers, maintaining and sort of retaining customers is key. We have customers that we had sort of 20 odd years ago that have continued to follow. And there's that saying, people buy from people. And if you market well, you communicate well, you sell well, you support well, those customers will stay with you. So they might take a lot of time to actually find and nurture, but in the long run, it really is beneficial. So if you invest time into all of those points, and I think in a year's time, 6 months' time, you'll see a big difference. To give you an example, I've been working with a partner in the HR and recruitment space. In the last year, they quadrupled their pipeline from 900,000 to over 4.5 million.
Wow.
That's quite impressive, isn't it? And that's validated pipeline as well. So my theories and my strategies, and strategies are always different depending upon who the strategy is for. But that gives you an idea. Their marketing was pretty much on the floor. It was looking at actually where we were going to start to get some opportunity, validated opportunity into that business. So again, looking at the customer base, using all of the pointers that I've shared, and that's where they are today. So that's just very recently as well.
Wow.
And bringing on new partners into the ERP and CRM space. When I sort of was doing that and starting, first of all, new Dynamics practice, we added 22 new customers in the first year, and that's without any Dynamics background, any Dynamics evidence-based background. That was purely based on ERP expertise and us being able to position ourselves in a way where they were looking at us as a team and working with them and building a relationship long term with them. So that just gives you an indication of some of the success that can be had if you think about your marketing carefully, and keep it simple and join up everything you are doing. Don't go out alone and do ad hoc this, ad hoc that. Bring together your digital marketing, bring together your social marketing, bring together the content is so important. Think about your objectives for marketing, but actually, more importantly, is your marketing strategy aligned with your business strategy? Because if it isn't, you're working apart. They need to pull together. Marketing strategy aligned to business, marketing planning aligned to your objectives. Are your objectives aligned with your sales team? Because if they're not, Where's the buy-in and where's the coming together? So
Yeah.
if they aren't, what are you marketing for? What number are you what is your sales team trying to do? And are you fulfilling the needs of your sales team? So it's all very logical, but actually when you're in it, sometimes you don't think about it. And that's where my expertise is starting from the top and working through your organization with your people and making sure that you've joined it up. And that at the bottom comes the results. And
Lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Just playing a bit of a game of dot to dot to make sure everything aligns. But
absolutely.
once again, I think a lot of people try to do the marketing piece by themselves, and I do see that quite a lot. So
Yeah.
once again, I think, yeah, that's super key. And I do have a comment from Rachel, who, this was a little while back, but she said that she's totally agreeing, that going back to basics, sometimes it can be very overwhelming with the quantity of tasks we have to deal with in a day-to-day marketeer's life. But sometimes you can waste efforts if the data isn't the foundation of your campaigns or lead gen. So that's a fellow, I assume, marketer, by the way she's written that, that definitely agrees with what you're saying.
That's brilliant.
So
yeah.
Obviously I know we've covered a lot, to be fair, and you know, I think there's so many different elements to it that you could probably reel off a lot more. Obviously with yourself, I know we sort of touched upon how you're the co-founder of Supercell 365 and One Engine. Just could you just briefly explain to us what each side of the company does?
Yeah,
So
of course.
people know.
So they're very separate businesses. So One Engine is a marketing consultancy that specializes purely on tech channels. So that can be pretty much, again, anybody within that tech channel space. So it can be security based, it can be HR and payroll, anything to do with tech. So yes, everyone that within that business has a background in the tech space, so they understand it, and that's really the key, is we understand tech businesses. We understand the market, we understand what works, and we understand and know how to implement. So that's on the One Engine, and that was very much started on the basis of really seeing where the pitfalls were in the channel, and again having had partners come to me and asking for my help before One Engine was even thought about, and it was off the back of those when actually it was actually we can help others here, but it's not a business that we constantly promote. We get referral business into One Engine, and that's through my relationships and the team's relationships that we've built over the years. And that's what's so different about it. We're not a traditional agency. So that's what I love about that business. I am a marketeer at heart, and I'm very sort of involved with that business. On the Supercell side of the business, again, being in the ERP space for such a long time, Supercell was really put together based upon our knowledge, our expertise, our people, and actually what we wanted to do was actually, again, be very much seen as an expert in ERP, an expert in CRM, what have you. We are always pulled towards Microsoft sort of now, and that business is building out. But that business model is very much partner to partner. We work closely with our compete partners. We provide resourcing into those partners, and so that's more of the solution, business solution organization, focusing around ERP, CRM, and sort of business transformation. So there's a whole raft of consultancy services in there. Again, not just around Dynamics, but actually those that might be looking to go through change. So the whole change management piece is in there again, which we work with. We surround ourselves with people who are experts in what they do, and there lies the partner to partner piece. So yeah, so hopefully that gives you, the businesses are very separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one thing, that there is no compete at all with anything that we work on. We're very, very professional. As I say, we keep everything very transparent. And yeah, that's us.
No, I think it's so cool, and tying straight back to the start of this podcast and actually hearing that one of your first marketing jobs was in the tech space, and
Yeah,
you've been within that since day dot, which,
I know.
you
I
know,
must be mad.
yeah, I was about to say it is such a long time. And usually you hear people's stories of where they've sort of jumped from here to here, obviously covering different industries. But yeah, this is why marketing guru does suit the title, I say, because especially in the tech space, because you've definitely got the knowledge and experience. So
Yeah, and
honestly,
I never stop learning, and I'm a big believer in bringing in people who can do better than you in certain areas. So if we think about how marketing has evolved and how it's come on, I'm certainly not the expert in social media. But what I
right,
do is I bring in that expertise into my business. I can't be the expert in everything. I'd like to say that I could, but I can't. But I
yeah,
learn every day. For me is a school day. I am still learning, and I still love what I do. But mostly, I absolutely love the channels that I work in. And I have to say, I think the Microsoft channel, not just on the dynamic side, but from the modern work side, the Azure side, is a really fantastic channel to be in. And I think I'm very privileged to be working with lots of those partners. And I'm very, very privileged to be working and still working with people within Microsoft, and people within other partner communities as well.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's lovely. And I must admit, we could probably talk forever and ever. And
I need to come.
I think, yeah. And as I said, I think you've covered so many valuable topics and areas that a lot of people may have not thought about before, prior to this, or about their strategies. So a lot of food for thought. I nearly said that wrong. It's always a tongue twister, but food for thought. But Justine, we always finish on this question, and I'm actually intrigued because you have been within this space for so long. But if you were to do any other job and it couldn't be to do with tech or marketing, what job would you do?
I'd probably be a travel expert.
I like it. Does that involve going on the holidays and
It does.
traveling?
Yes.
I like it. No, that's perfect. Well, honestly, thank you so much for joining. I know we had another comment from Gareth Jones. I don't know if you know them. Just saying thank you for the learning, but he had to dash. But we've loved having you on. As I said before, I think Helena would have found this really valuable as well from our
Yeah.
perspective, especially if with your case study of that HR and recruitment firm doing so
Yeah.
well. We'll be having a talk after this to get that. But no, honestly, thank you so much. And yeah, all the best for what you do this year. And we'll definitely be staying in contact.
And thank you very much, Lucy and Helena, as well, for inviting me on. That's it's brilliant. Thank you very much. And it's
Good.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Perfect. At least it wasn't as scary as we thought, which is great. All right. Well, Well, we will see everyone. I think our next one is next Thursday, as usual. I can't remember if it's a UK or US one, but you'll find out when when the post's revealed. But thank you for everyone tuning in today, and we will catch you all next week. Thank you.
Super. Bye.
Bye.